Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.
He's Teddy Covers. I'm the... Welcome to Wager Talk today. We got a great show ahead for you all. Hakeem Profits, he's going to take apart both the NBA games tonight and tomorrow in a WNBA game. Dave Sherapan, our bookmaker, discusses where all the money went last week, where all the money's going this week. Teddy's got his big game breakdown. We got Ralph Michaels, a 67% situational play on the Oklahoma-Kansas game. Just a really great show. Teddy, what do you got for us today?
What do I got for us? I got 50/55 minutes of sports betting information. What about you?
Oh, you're doing the show? I'm out.
Oh, that's the best news I've seen all day. Although when you leave with that backdrop, you can't see you because you're wearing a black shirt in front of a black backdrop. So you just disappear as you leave the screen.
Okay, well, so be it. So be it. So you and I were on opposite sides of a play last night.
Yes, we were, Lawrence. And I saw you even tag me on Twitter. All right. If I'm on the other side of you and you're all crowing, don't tag me, dude. I don't want to hear it. I was in no mood for that. And I was super annoyed because the game, I'm like, it's going to be a slow game. There's not going to be a ton of drives. There's not going to be a ton of big plays. And it played out like that. They just converted every third down all game. And every time in the red zone, they were scoring touchdowns with the exception of that one fumble that freaked you out.
So, Teddy, I did not know you released the under, so I'd like to humbly apologize. I don't look at all the handicappers on Wager Talk and Sports Memo and what their plays were. So please accept my apology. Namaste, good sir.
That one, we got to get in the archives. Just say, please, I prefer you to say, please humbly accept my apology. But yeah,
let's do it again for the archives.
Lost. You were right. I was wrong. I mean, look, I did not think the Raiders were going to be able to move the ball up and down the field the way they did last night. The Saints defense was a no-show.
Yeah, you and I spoke about it the night before. You were telling me how great the Saints defense was. You had them in your top 5. I was telling you, no, Teddy. This is a mediocre defense at best. But Oakland was impressive. Chucky has got this team going.
So, how can you say Oakland? You can't. No. Stadium open.
Dude, I did it all night last night.
Big deal. Oakland is done. The A's are in Oakland. They'll be there for another year or two, maybe. Then they're coming to Vegas, too. So forget Oakland in your sports lexicon moving forward. Vegas, baby.
And we have an ordinary Teddy already, only 2 minutes into the show. Welcome, everybody. Frank Pod, Sports Group, Mike Campbell, Penalty Yards, Trance. What's up, Gordon? Tom Hart, Terry Edelman, how are you? Happy New Year. Vivian Presman, you sexy woman. Jeff Swazi, West Moneyline. Teddy, would you like to welcome anyone?
I don't have the YouTube feed open. What I have in front of me is about 1,000 notes about all the games that we're supposed to talk about today. So I leave that tracking to you. And I appreciate you. Look, I want you to keep our audience involved. That's your job, Prez. You got to keep them involved. It's my job to break down games. So we have different focuses throughout the course of the show.
Good morning, lads, Raymond Harrison said. Spencertown, love the show, guys. Really appreciate this, everybody. We love the show as well. Teddy, Hakeem Profits just moments away. I just want to highlight I had a 4-0 night last night. Won both my baseballs. Won my hockey play on Tampa Bay. Won the prop we gave out yesterday as well. And then, of course, I had the over. Teddy, have you ever seen me watch an NFL football game?
I'm trying to think if I have or not. I feel like I have. I know I've seen bits of it. I certainly talk to you while you're watching an NFL game. And you're one of those guys that drives me crazy because you're mad in the first quarter. All right.
Oh,
You
I'm
can't
mad.
get mad.
I'm mad in the first minute.
Yeah. And it's like these guys are like, oh my God, Patrick Mahomes, the worst quarterback I've ever seen. That guy sucks. You know, they're freaking out in the first quarter when somebody throws an incomplete pass. You're that guy.
Dude, the craziest thing is we gotta bring thing is I am literally a successful businessman. I am financially stable. My life is great. Yet I sweat these games as if dinner was on the line. Ski Profits! How are you, my friend? What's up? Welcome to the show. And NBA. Lakers tonight, -6.5. Nuggets, 214. What's going on?
Man, I've had a pretty annoying morning just dealing with my internet and stuff like that. But I'm glad to be here with you guys. I'm happy to talk about the games. This Lakers game, you guys know, is my favorite one. So you want to just jump into it?
Well, let me ask you this,
Go.
Steve, before we get on. I've got to ask you, when you're watching a game, are you I'm screaming at the TV in the first quarter guy, or are you not necessarily relaxed, but more stoic and more calm throughout the course of the game? Are you a Prez or are you a Teddy when you watch the game?
It depends if I bet the first half or the full game. If I bet the first half, I'm a press by the first minute. If I bet the full game, I'm a Teddy. And
That's funny.
Okay,
and
Steve,
the funny-
Lakers, Nuggets. It's brother.
on,
Take this game apart for us.
okay, if I have to look at this game, Lakers have came here and took care of business 2 games in a row. They could have lost that last game. And the way I want to attack this one, I mean, I'll break it down half by half. I think the Nuggets, I mean, I've said it plenty of times, but even going back to last year, they're not necessarily a team that starts off strong. They're a team that finishes games strong, and that's reflective in their first half, second half point margin. You look at during the course of the regular season, first half margin -0.5, second half plus 1.8. You look at their last 3.3 games, the first half margin is -7.7 for Denver and +8 on the second half. And it's the opposite for the Lakers. So I think you go towards the Lakers early in the first half, but it's do or die. Denver, they're not going to, I mean, they know that they can get in any game. They've been down 20 and came back and won. I'm not going to count them out with the 6.5 points. So if you like the Lakers, I look at them early in the first half. And if you like Denver, I look at the full game.
What do you make of the market adjustment for this game? Because it was pretty clear a 7 in game 1 and a pretty clear 7.5 in game 2. And the markets have made a full point adjustment down to 6.5 for game 3. Do you think that's warranted? Is this a Denver spot and that what they're reacting to? Or do you think it's one of those deals the Nuggets had their chance in game 2? The markets are expecting some Denver love as a result, but it's really the Lakers game to control.
Well, I definitely think it's a Denver spot because if Denver loses this game, they're done for. They're not coming back from down 0-3, so they're going to bring the kitchen sink in this game. And I think that's why the line is shaded that way. It's not like we didn't see Denver compete in that second game. The first game, yeah, you could say they got blown out, but Denver very well could have won that second game. So I definitely understand the market adjustment.
Ski, tomorrow night, Boston, -3 against Miami. I win this game. We got a hell of a series ahead of us. 210.5 is the total. I know it's tomorrow, but we got you today, and you are our NBA man. So break that one down for us.
Well, this series, I've been having a lot of success. I had Miami game 1 and game 2, and I had Boston game 3. And I say all the time, or I've been saying that I think Miami is the better team. I still think that way, but I think Boston, they have a great shot. Ever since Gordon Hayward came back, their bench has got a little bit better, and that was the part that was struggling. I think Boston can come in here and take this game. I think that they've been good first half, almost every game throughout the playoffs, and I think that's the way you attack the game. I think they come out early and have a nice lead at the half. Miami has yet to play a full game, so until they show me one, I'm not quite sure that they do, and I think that Boston is focused and comes out early.
Yeah, Miami's been a little bit like Denver in the sense that they seem to play their best basketball when the other team just punched them in the face. The Nuggets have been rallying from deficits. The Heat have done a really good job at rallying from deficits in this series. I do want to ask you about the extended layoff, because in my mind, that favors Miami. Boston had just gained momentum in the series, finally played were able to withstand a late Heat run they weren't able to withstand in each of the first two games. And then all of a sudden you get 4 days off, where Miami gets to stew about what happened in game 3. Do you think the layoff has any effect on what we're going to see in game 4? And if you think the Heat are the better of these two teams, why aren't you taking Miami here?
Well, that's a great point. I think the layoff, I disagree, Teddy. I think the layoff benefits Boston. Miami was sitting here rested, waiting on this series. Boston is a team that just fought in a 7-game series and had to play 3 tough games right after, so they could use some rest. I talk about Miami being the better team. They're able to spread out those minutes. Boston, not so much. So being able to rest some of those guys, being able to get guys like Gordon Hayward, whose ankle wasn't feeling so well, getting him 4 days of rest, I think is a huge boost for Boston. So I think the layoff benefits Boston. I said initially that as the series goes on, I think Miami has the advantage. But in this instance, just because they got that 4 days rest, I think it favors Boston.
He's Ski Profits. You can find him at WagerTalk.com. Teddy, did you have another question about that game?
Yeah, just real quick. I want to talk about Gordon Hayward, because at the start of the playoffs, I'm like, the Gordon Hayward injury is a non-factor for Boston. And it wasn't a huge factor, I think, certainly in the first round. Second round became a factor. And having him back here, for the first time in the postseason, I've adjusted my power rating number for the Celtics up. How much is Gordon Hayward worth to a point spread?
In this series specifically, I would say about a point.
That was the adjustment I made. And originally I had Gordon Hayward for nothing when he left. I didn't downgrade Boston when he left. I upped him a point when he came back. I think he managed a lot in this series. Thank you, Lewis.
Great question, Teddy. Ski, look, nothing about WNBA. You sent me 2 teams you wanted to discuss, the Lynx, the Storm. I had to Google who they were. Minnesota, that's one of them. +8 versus Seattle. My guess is Seattle is the Storm because they love alliteration. So, Mini +8, 164. Take it apart, baby.
Man, is that official, Prez? I'm looking at it here. I think they're holding out today just because. This is a game that was supposed to go off on Sunday, but it got postponed because there was a inconclusive test for COVID. So here we are today. I don't see the lines out necessarily yet, and I think the reason the lines are not out is because they're scared. They want to see if. Go ahead.
They're posted at. They're not posted at every book, but they're posted at many books. 8.5, 163.5.
Yeah.
It's not everywhere, but most books have it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as well. South Point, Westgate, Pinnacle, Bet Online, Caesars. They all got the lineup, Ski.
Okay, sorry. I guess I'm behind. Well, I'll say this. We're looking at. Lexi Brown is still out, concussion. We're looking at Sylvia Fowles. And if the rest has helped her enough to be able to play in this game, that's going to help the Minnesota side. I think Minnesota can keep it close. But if she's out, I want to look at the total because that's a lot of rim protection that's missing. And I think the Storm can take advantage. Minnesota, without that, I think they shoot a lot more threes. And I think Seattle just has an easy time scoring on them. So if Sylvia Fowles is out, I'm looking towards over that 163, 164 number. And if she's in, I'm looking more towards playing maybe Minnesota tonight.
The official word right now is Sylvia Fowles still questionable with a calf injury. We'll see how her potential playing or absence affects the number throughout the course of the rest of the day.
Great stuff, boys. Ski, awesome segment. We love having fun. Keep rolling in the NBA, my friend. Thanks for joining us. And guys, we're going to take a quick break. We're right back with Teddy's 6 Bs, Dave Sharapan, and Ralph Michaels.
known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers best bet or daily package for only $2.
Welcome back to Wager Talk Today. Today Covers and Lawrence Presman, the Prez, breaking down the world of sports and sports betting for you on this Tuesday. Let's get into it. Bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. What happened last night here in Vegas and around the globe? Mixed results for the books in Monday Night Football. The wise guys were all over the Raiders. So the books that catered to professional bettors did not enjoy the result. The public was all over the Saints. So the books that catered to recreational players did very well. However, the Raiders are now the public team in Vegas. They're the home team. It was their home opener last night. And when you talk to the bookmakers here in Las Vegas, they got hammered with Raiders money last night. Raiders plus the points. Raiders on the money line. Not a good result in Vegas. However, out across the rest of the world, when you're talking about what happened in Colorado and what happened in New Jersey and what happened in Pennsylvania and what happened in Louisiana, et cetera, the books did fairly well on the game because the public that love the Raiders, that's only here in Las Vegas. The line opened 5.5, closed 4. That's the impact of the wise guy money on Las Vegas. And the Raiders obviously winning that game fairly comfortably. The total opened 50.5, got bet all the way down to 47.5. I complained about this earlier in the show, being I had the under. There were only 9 drives per team for the whole game. It was a slow pace. There weren't a whole lot of big plays, but they were scoring touchdowns and not field goals. And neither team were able to get a stop on third down. The two teams combined 17 of 28 on third down conversions and 2 of 2 on fourth downs. Was on an over pace throughout, and the over cashed out a fairly good result for the books with all of that under money coming in, a 3-point move on the total. When it comes to MLB last night, the wise guys were pounding. 4 games got hit fairly hard. We saw the Angels get bet up. Of course, the wise guys were right in 3 out of the 4. The Angels got bet up minus 190 up to 220 against Texas. They won that game going away. The Indians went from short dogs to favorites against the White Sox. They won that game, win for the wise guys. St. Louis, that game got pounded, minus 145 up to minus 185. There were even some minus 190s on the Cardinals at the first pitch yesterday. They lost. That was the one the wise guys got wrong. And Seattle was another wise guy choice. Big line mover yesterday. They opened in the plus 135, plus 140 range against Houston. They ended up winning that game for a plus price return for those who backed them. In the NHL, really nothing to report for bad beats, bad bets, or bad for the books. There was 2-way action, side and total. Tampa 3, Dallas 2. It did push on that closing total of 5. There you have it for bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. Back to you, Prez.
Teddy, great stuff, man. What an awesome show so far, guys. And here's what's coming up. Dave Sharapan in just a few minutes. And then Ralph Michaels at the end of the show. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. We're going to talk about how 2-0 NFL teams fare, how 0-2 NFL teams fare. And he's got a situational play. I want to welcome all new listeners. Guys, I hope you're enjoying the show. Stay with us. We're on Monday to Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. We love having you. And as for promos, it's $2 Tuesday. WagerTalk.com. Brian Leonard is our featured handicapper. He is an extremely rare 5% play in the NFL. And Brian is absolutely rolling right now in his 5% plays. So make sure to check that out. Over at Sports Memo, Dr. Chuck. He's the $2 Tuesday. He went 3-0 in week 2 in the NFL. He's on a 10-4 football start to the season. So make sure to go over to Sports Memo and Wager Talk. $2 for Brian Leonard, $2 for Dr. Chuck. Teddy, Kanye West Award, my friend. I got nothing. You?
If I'd had something, I'd have put it in the notes, Prez.
Okay. So there we go. I hear Joe laughing in our ear, Teddy. I guess I'm making funnies.
Yeah, it was very funny. Like this, before the show, we say, "All right, if I got something, I'll put it in the notes," and then we get in the show, everything that we talked about before the show. From now on, just don't. So if you guys don't know, Prez calls me.
There we go, people.
Over under.
Mr. Prez segment on Wager Talk Today, sponsored by Depends. Yeah, that's what it is, Teddy. Sponsored by Depends. Ah, Jesus, dude, Teddy, you never stop, huh? Guys, hit that like button. I'm not listening to you. Take him off the screen. Hit that like button, guys. 278 of you watching. 54 likes. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. Quick commercial break. We're back with Dave Sharapan.
First-time customers at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com receive $25 in WagerBucks after your first initial purchase. All you have to do is sign up, make your purchase, and you'll get $25 in credit.
Well, welcome back to Wager Talk Today. Dave Sherp and joining us, Ralph Michaels next. Dave, how are you, man? I know you had a health scare. I'm so happy to see you. You look amazing. I'm slightly attracted to you. Thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, it was quite the health scare. I'm sorry I missed a week of the show because of it. I mean, but I'm feeling good. I'm back. Not every day someone has a stroke and gets, fixed. I had surgery. It's all good. And got to watch football, not in a book, for the first time in 20 years. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. It was kind of fun to not be in the book and watch the results because you wanted to be anywhere but inside a sports book on that side of the counter as the favorites kept coming in all day on Sunday.
Dave, I don't mean to make light of this, but Teddy has a stroke every day.
Hey, listening to you, this segment is so good. It's gold. Like, Joe doesn't really appreciate that he just gets to sit and listen to this the whole time. I give 10 minutes before I come on, and it's absolute gold. It's absolute gold.
I'd like it to be rhodium, but thank you, Dave. Bookmaker with William Hill. Teddy, I hand Dave to you.
Sure, and recognize, Dave, Prez and I literally, I think we talked 6 times yesterday. He kept calling me and calling, hey, by the way, for this on tomorrow's show. Hey, by the way. And then he comes in, and it's like, this is what we're going to talk about with Dave Sharapan. It's real simple. It doesn't change one week to the next. We're going to talk about how the books did, what the big games were, what happened last night, what are you seeing for early action this week. It's not rocket science. Prez is like, I have no notes. I have no notes. Oh, my God.
I think.
Are you feeling better, Teddy?
I think it's best that Prez doesn't have the notes. Like, I'm not on the Prez's cabinet, but I'm making a bid to get a position there. But seriously, like, notes maybe are overrated. For some people, they are. And obviously for Prez, I think it's better without the notes, because if he has the notes, then he's got more things to worry about. You two back and forth, and then Prez pretending like he doesn't know what the notes are and things like that. Whether it's a bid or not, it comes off as real, and it's gold. Part of the Wager Talk show between the two of you. Absolute gold.
Do you think I could ask you guys to get to it? Okay. Let's go, Teddy.
Now you want to go to the notes. Let's go, Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy, pull up your notes.
All right, that's fair enough. Enough with the yip yap, Dave. Let's get to business. Last night, here in Vegas, there appeared to be a lot of Raiders money coming in. Globally, there appeared to be a lot of Raiders money coming in. However, the bookmakers I talked to were saying mixed results. Some guys did very well because they were catering to Saints bettors. What's your take on last night's Monday Night Football result?
I can tell you this, all the boys that I talked to, there was a ton of liability going into the game on the Saints, money line, teasers, things like that. And the play that came in, you know, when you see that game day move like that, and again, we talked about this a few weeks ago, you're going to see faster, stronger moves in the NFL with everything going on. But that money was big money. It was sharp money, and it moved the number, you know, from 5.5. It closed at 4. So individually, the game, I think a lot of places may have, you know, taken a little hit, but overall, it was less of a hit than it would have been had the Saints won the game and let alone covered the spread. So it worked out. It usually does. You know, make sure that there's enough Kleenex around for everyone to cry and when, you know, the book's lost, and they'll tell everybody about it the same way that, I mean, I was on that call a lot of times, you know, from local guys, national guys, how'd you guys do? And I always kind of just downplayed it. Like, I don't understand the infatuation with how the books did, but it's definitely true. And it's definitely people want to know. So yeah, the books had a really bad week this week, but again, it's week 2. It's September, and there's a lot more games to talk about coming up this week.
And it's definitely worth noting, and I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because when you talk about one of the things that the mainstream media is going to do that doesn't understand nuances of any of this stuff, they're going to talk about whatever straight bets came in. And, oh, the line moved on this straight bet or that straight bet. They're not going to understand the nuances of, oh, by the way, going into the Monday night game, we have this enormous parlay liability and this enormous teaser liability and this enormous money line liability that doesn't factor into the straight bet. So I'm glad you brought that point up.
Yeah, I mean, there was a middle. Essentially, the last thing you want to do as a book is create a middle opportunity. But the way, you know, favorites went 13-1 on Sunday. So you think there was some parlay liability, money line, you know, chalk parlays, teasers. It was all there. And now there was probably people that had a pretty nice plus 5.5, and, you know, anywhere between 1 to 5 to the Saints was going to be a big middle. So books had to get down and get that number and try to find that Saints money at 4 just to kind of even that out the day of game action and maybe mitigate some of the risk of the overall teasers, moneyline parlays. I mean, very rarely do you get a 13-1 NFL Sunday favorites winning the games outright. So it's one of those jolts early in the season.
Sure. And of course, the one dog that won was the favorite in the week. You know,
right.
Yeah, I mean, they were, you know, they were a 1-point favorite or a 2-point favorite that lost. That's basically barely even a favorite. But let's stop looking back and start looking forward. We'll get to football in a minute. I do want to ask about the action for both the NBA and the NHL for tonight. What are you seeing, Lakers Nuggets, and what are you seeing for the Lightning and the Stars in terms of early action here?
You know, it's funny. This bubble has created quite the opportunity for the books to kind of go on autopilot. Unless something drastic happens with an injury or a change, it's Lakers -6, 6.5. The total's 214 to 215, and depending on where it goes. We're 2 games into the series. We saw one game not as competitive. We saw the second game be very competitive and come down to the last shot. What's going to change? Nothing. So the action so far, you know, from my guys, it's pretty much standard operating procedure. No major stuff moving any lines. Way more bets on the Lakers so far. Probably continue that up till game time. I personally think the Nuggets are live. I woke up in the hospital to watch a basketball game, and it was the Nuggets coming back and beating the Clippers in Game 5. It was a great basketball game. Gave me a little bit of sense of comfort watching a game. I had a little soft spot in my heart for the Nuggets, so I'm rooting for them to win. The NHL, forget it. The NHL is still, I love the product. I always have. I always will. The game is the best. The playoffs are the greatest. And now we're in a bubble. And We saw a great hockey game last night. I mean, the Lightning, evened up the series. We're back to almost the original series price. The line on the game is going to come what it has, and I expect it probably to not move more than 5 cents either way. I mean, unless Prez gives it out and all the people follow it, and then, we'll know. Because the last time we talked, we were both all over the Stars, I believe, and them beating the Knights the night we talked. So I think that we're going to see good two-way action on the Stanley Cup.
Dave, you rock, dude. Thank you for the plug. I was on Tampa Bay last night. A fun game. I like the under tomorrow night. I like the under every game this series from here on in.
Yep.
I think we're gonna get 5 as a max. Let's get to some NFL football for week 3, and I want to highlight a couple of games. And then there's been some pretty strong line moves already. Minnesota plus 2.5 now. Obviously, with New Orleans' terrible effort last night, they came down to 3. And then we have, where is it? I can't find it. I'm losing. Oh, we got Arizona from 3.5 to 6 at some places. What's going on? Where's all the money coming in? Why are these line moves so big already?
I tell you what, these early numbers there's just so much guesswork going on both sides of the counter. And I'm not afraid to say it because, right now I'm still in that kind of free agent mode, but I've always been open and honest about it. Like, a lot of times you put up a number and you let the market tell you where to go. And what I think some books are taking the approach are like, all right, let's go fast. Like, we don't need to go from 3.5 to 4 or 3.5 to 4.5. You'll see 3.5 to maybe 5, and then another hit, and we're at 6, and then we're good. Like, we'll figure it out from here. So I think, that Arizona number was just light. Like, that was just, I don't know what you see in Detroit. I see a bad football team. I did before the season, and I still do. I see a team that really can't stop anybody. Arizona, legit threat in the NFC West, which is the best division in football. The Tennessee-Minnesota game, I mean, you guys know the numbers between Ralph and everyone else that you guys talk to. These 0-2 trends are huge. A team that's 0-2, I don't know how that came more than 3. Home or not, Minnesota has looked like one of the worst teams in football. Tennessee's 2-0. They're 2-0, but, they beat Jacksonville. They struggled to beat Denver. They're going to go on the road laying more than a field goal. I mean, so, alarms come up for me as well when you see those things, and you're just seeing some fast, hard moves right now.
Teddy, just one last quick question. Sorry, Dave. Pittsburgh as well. Open at 6, down to 3.5. I don't ever remember such massive line moves by Tuesday.
No. Again, in the early moves they're not indicative of the right side. I can tell you that right now. And listeners, watchers, everybody, like, just because that line moved, it's okay to bet the other side. They don't always win. We always talk about and remember, like Atlanta on Sunday, game day move, went from, that thing opened 7, it closed 2.5, and it was the dead right side the entire game. How Atlanta lost that game, I'll never know. I'll watch it again. I still can't figure it out. But yes, Prez, the line moves are going to be hard. They're going to be fast, and they're going to be, really quick. But again, I think you'll see it kind of settle back and come back. But 2020 is different. No home field, and the ability for the away teams to hear all their signals and make all their calls, it's different than it ever has been. So, and no fans or minimal fans in these stadiums, all of these factors are being played out. I mean, the numbers are going to get better, but it's going to take a couple weeks. This is a great time to be making plays and following sharp guys or good information, because it's going to really, get a good number, more so than in the past.
We're talking, of course, with veteran Las Vegas bookmaker Dave Sharapan, who joins us every week here on WagerTalk Today. And there's a bunch of points that I want to get to. I know we have only a few minutes left with you, so I want to focus on the action that's coming in college, but because we just broke down the NFL. But first, I want to ask you about a theory that I heard. and see if there's any validity to it. And I also before that, I want to ask you how much is the NFL home field worse this year? I've talked to 10 different people and gotten 10 different answers. What's the NFL home field advantage? And what are the markets saying it's worth?
I'll tell you what, it's been a great discussion, and we've been talking about it for months. Me and the boys who I talk to and stuff. I say it's minimal, like almost nothing is where I put it. And you still have some guys that have it a little bit higher, and some closer to me, maybe a point and a half. I mean, and for some places maybe it is, but it's not much, Teddy. Like legitimately, it's not a bubble situation where there's no home court. They've been shooting at the same hoops they got the same sight lines and all this stuff. I mean, that's what you're seeing in the NBA. And the hockey that, the Eastern Conference had to move their bubble, but it's still a very controlled environment. This is different, and it's different than anything we've ever seen. And I'm downplaying it. Like, I don't think it's nearly as much. The weather and the wind is still the only real factor that's going to come into play in the NFL, I think, this season.
Yeah, I've been giving a point and a half myself with that number. The other thing that I wanted to ask you is that I heard a theory that because there's been so little college football and not many marquee games thus far, that we've seen, the syndicates have money. They're all bankrolled. And we're seeing the bigger NFL moves because that's just the money's going to flow. And then the syndicates are pouring more money in NFL now than they would otherwise. Is there any truth to that, or is that just rumor?
No, there's some truth to it. And you're seeing a lot of, I don't know if they're forced moves, but, the college has been, you want to talk about guesswork. I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't know a damn thing. Like, I'm watching it and I'm still evaluating it, but I don't know what I'm looking at. And I won't know at least for the first couple weeks. Like in years past for me, those first directional state games that teams play when they're 40-point favorites, like I don't even really watch them. You just kind of like observe or take some notes from them. But until you get closer to conference play or rival games or good neutral site games, for me, I mean, I was lucky. I relied on guys that maybe needed that stuff and watched it and was able to evaluate and get something for power ratings. But what we've seen now is a lot of the lesser-known schools playing games, and there's moves on games that you're just like, where is this coming from? So I think, yes, I think college has been reserved, and now, we get the SEC started, this week. There's going to be games. There's going to be teams that more people are familiar with, and you're going to see more action kind of flow into the college. I don't think it will take away from the NFL, but you might not see the hard NFL moves depending on the results on Saturday.
Great info, Dave. I mean, it's a segment that I can't live without. I'm really glad you joined us.
Dave, before you go, I got one quick question.
What do you
Dave,
got,
before you go, I got one quick question for you. When you hear that the Prez releases a play, is there a bell, a horn? What happens inside of the book? What is the panic and pandemonium like?
So last time we were on, you said you were going to give me your phone number, and I didn't get it, and I still don't have it. So I only get the information secondhand about the Prez release. And it's not really like everything in this business, information is key. So the sooner I can get this phone number, and people have warned me that maybe I don't want the phone number because they don't want me to have you to have my phone number. And that's fine. But I still need the information and release because we will set alarms off. We will do whatever we have to do to play defense and know that the Prez is on something, and that's the hot release of the day.
You are the best, Dave, and I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad you're healthy. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, guys, you have no idea how happy I am to be here, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Thank you, fellas.
Cheers.
Later, Dave. Guys, Ralph Michaels coming up in just 2 minutes. Quick break at Teddy's Big Game Breakdown.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.
Welcome back to WagerTalk Today. Ted Savransky, Teddy Covers with Lawrence Presman, breaking down the world of sports and sports betting for you on a Tuesday. And let's get into a little big game breakdown. I know it's early. The game's not being played till Thursday, but it's NFL. We've already broke down the NBA for tonight. Let's talk some Florida football. The Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Current line, we're seeing the Jags about a 3-point favorite, 2.5 at some books. Total 47.5/48. The early money has come for the over, and it makes a ton of sense to this bettor. We saw a shootout last Thursday night. We saw a shootout basically in most NFL games this past weekend. No question. Right now, we're seeing the offenses in a little bit better form than the defense. And the league as a whole has trended toward higher scoring games. Of the 5 unders this week, 3 of the 5 were absolute nail biters, sweats and a half, where it's a touchdown or a field goal at the end of the game. And, oh, well, you cashed the ticket, but it took 6 years off your life. I want no part of any under bet in this ballgame. And here's why. On the one side, you have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who has been good, even in the opener, where he threw 3 picks. Fitzpatrick does exactly what the Dolphins want him to do. He chucks the ball up and lets his receivers make plays. Miami's got skill position talent. They can score quick strike touchdowns. They can march down the field. They have balance on offense. It's not a good offensive line. It's not a great offense, but they hung 28 last week, and I see no reason why they won't be able to move the ball against the Jaguars defense that really hasn't stopped anybody yet so far this season. On the other side of the equation, you have Gardner Minshew, who is doing essentially the same thing as Fitzpatrick. You saw the throws he made on Sunday. Minshew's no star, but he's smart enough to know that when he chucks the ball up to his playmaking receivers, and make no mistake about it, the Jags are loaded with skill position weapons around him. We saw the catches they were making at Tennessee last week and the week before. I expect to see more of that from the Jags. So you have 2 gunslinger QBs who are willing to chuck the ball around, and you have 2 defenses. Jacksonville hasn't stopped anyone. Miami, again, that first half against New England, they did stop the Patriots when the Patriots had no preseason and were breaking in a new quarterback and a new offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. The second half of that game, the Patriots went touchdown, fumble through the end zone, which would have been a touchdown, and touchdown. And we saw Buffalo literally move the ball at will against Miami this past weekend. I would expect the Jags to have some success offensively against that Dolphins defense. And I look for this game to get up and over the total. Look for Thursday Night Football to be another high-scoring affair, just like last week. And again, if you like it, I bet this one sooner rather than later. We've already seen the line move upwards. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see it move up more between now and kickoff.
Outstanding job, Teddy Covers. I love your big game breakdown. Ralph Michaels with us. And Ralph, people in the chat room are calling you the professor. I like that nickname. Can you wear it? We can't hear Ralph, so it's all good.
I'm back. We got a little technical difficulty. Hey,
What do
you know
think
what?
of the nickname the professor?
I've been called a lot of things, Prez, and the professor's probably better than 99.9% of them. So, hey, you know, you can't give yourself a nickname. You have to go what's given to you out there, except you, Prez. You know, God Almighty, the best ever handicapper, the most beautiful body, God's gift to women. Those are your titles. I understand that. But the rest of us, we have to be given a nickname and can't give it to ourselves.
Well, I'm the narcissist here, Ralph. And by the way, I didn't give myself the nickname the Prez. Teddy did. He puts me on a pedestal. Ralph, situational play, 67% statistic. Talk to me.
Well, you know, this is actually the angle of the day. So I'm going to, again, an angle is different than a system, but I'm using a system for this reference. For those novices out there, a trend or an angle is basically team specific. This team is 12-3 as a home favorite. A system is any team fits into a certain category. So they're much stronger, and It's really how you analyze the game. So I am looking at college football teams off a win, off a bye, and they're a home favorite of 11.5 or more. So you had a win. You're comfortable. You had a week to rest. You had a week to improve. Now you're expected to win as an 11.5 point or higher home favorite. You've done that. 96-8 straight up, 67, 33, and 4 ATS, 67%. That applies to Oklahoma this week against Kansas State. And guys, before I get to my situational play of the day, I am not calling Dave Sherapin out because I love the guy. I am not calling anyone out. I am just trying to make you aware. Don't fall into traps. Teddy and Prez, I'll tell you guys this. Looking back at weeks 1 and 2 in the NFL, the home team has won 59.4% straight up. The home team has covered 53.3%. When I look back at the history of the NFL, home team has covered 49.5%. When I look at weeks 1 and 2 in the NFL the last 10 years, home team has covered only 49.9%. So while we're all in this, well, home field is less, there is no home field, the numbers so far say the home teams have performed better. Again, 2-week sample size. I am not going to say that's the rule, but it's something to pay attention to. And Teddy, you were talking about over-unders, so I jumped on the database as you were talking about that Thursday game over. Through 2 weeks, the average game has seen 50.7 points per game scored. When I went back from 2015 through 2019, looking at the first 2 weeks, 41.4 points per game. So we are 9.3 points per game higher scoring than the last 5 years, with a total that's only 4.8 higher. The total from 2015 to 2019 was 41.3. The total this year is 46.1. So it has jumped 4.8 points, but nowhere near the 9 points of extra scoring.
I mean, that's impressive numbers. And to quantify it, you know, that's why I love having you on the show, Ralph, every single day, is because I got these theories. All right, I think it's like this. And you're like, this is exactly how much it is. You know, when you see the last 5 years scoring at 41 points a game, and this year it's at 50, and it's up 9 points, but the market itself is only adjusted 4, that's meaningful info. I'm glad we can give it to our viewers.
Situational play of the day, guys. I'm going to college football. I am expecting to put this game on my card later today. So my All Access customers will likely be getting this after I finish my reading. But it's simple, guys. I'm going to back game 393 USF plus the 3 against Florida Atlantic. Why? USF 4 spring practices and 2 games under their belt, including an embarrassing shutout loss to Notre Dame. Losing to Notre Dame is not embarrassing. Getting shut out on national TV is. Florida Atlantic, 0 spring practices, 0 games under their belt. I think it's a huge edge for South Florida. And there's this guy that reached out to me and asked me for the Wager Talk, did you know? And that guy's name was Teddy Covers. And he said, hey, can you break down 2-0 versus 0-2 teams week 3? So obviously, it's not as nearly as much of a sample size as I thought, Teddy. I was shocked how many teams actually are 1-1, or how few of those 0-2 and 2-0 teams have met. So I'm going to just break down the numbers. Even though they're not wow numbers, you can at least hear them and be informed. 0-2 versus 0-2 since 2010. Home team 5-5 straight up, 4-6 ATS. Home favorite 3-4 straight up, 2-5 ATS. When I go back all the way to 1994, 0-2 versus 0-2, home teams 20-17 straight up, 18-18 ATS. Home favorites 16-10 straight up, 11-13-1 ATS. Now, there is one subset that I did find which is meaningful. 0-2 versus 0-2 since 2006 has gone 63% to the over. When I go back all the way to 1994 and I have an 0-2 team versus an 0-2 team and the lines between the tens, so we're deducting or excluding double-digit favorites, those teams 69% to the over, 22-10. So that, keep an eye on Cincinnati, Philly, you're only 0-2-0-2. Quickly, the 2-0s. 2-0 versus 2-0. We're going to see it Monday night, KC and Baltimore. Home team 6-4, 5-5. No real help. Home favorite 1-1 and 0-2. 2010, not many situations. Going back to 1994, 2-0 versus 2-0. Home team 16-13 straight up, 14-13 and 2 ATS. Home favorites 10-4 straight up, 7-6 ATS. Basically a toss-up as well. And then lastly, when I look at 2-0 versus 0-2, when the 2-0 team is at home, they are 6-9 ATS. When a 2-0 team is playing an 0 team and they're a home favorite, the 2-0 team is only 5-8 ATS since 2010. And an 0-2 at home against the 2-0, 3-5 ATS. So a lot of numbers to go through there. You might have to hit pause, go back through, listen to them again. But there's no earth-shattering things. But at least you know you're not trying to guess. Oh, a 2-0 against an 0-2 or a 2-2 versus, an 0-2 versus an 0-2. So there's a lot of times that I am happy to share information that doesn't teach us anything just because we now know the answer to that situation and we're not going to fall into false pretenses that it's either a good or a bad play when basically it's been a toss-up situation.
So the one thing that stood out to me there is the 0-2 teams with the overs, 0-2 placing 0-2, and that is a positive expectation previous situation for Bengals-Eagles. But it is worth noting, even though your database doesn't show that the 0-2 versus the 2-0 has any significant trends, the markets react to the 0-2 team playing for their season, and you often see the broader markets pour in money on the 0-2 team facing the fat and happy 2-0 squad heading into the week 3 games. We haven't seen a ton of that yet this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of it between now and kickoff. Last thing, Ralph, and it had nothing to do with Ralph, but Sharpen just texted me. He said, I forgot to give my Twitter. Is at Sportsbook Consigliere. Sports BK Consig is Dave Sharpen's Twitter if you want to follow him. Ralph, what's your Twitter? Because you're a must follow on Twitter if you're not following Ralph already.
At KelSportsLV. And, one thing, guys, I tweeted out, one of the most popular things I've done this past few weeks, I just have a one-page schedule that you can print out. It has how many spring practices each team has. It has what their record is, so you know how many games they played this year. It has the circa opening line for college football. And it has the Superbooks look-ahead lines. Teddy, you said Jacksonville was 2.5 or 3?
Yeah.
The Superbook look-ahead line was pick. So we're seeing a 2.5-point reaction because Jacksonville played Tennessee so tight last week, whereas, the experts or the books had that at a betting line at Pick'em last week.
Guys, I got to jump in. Teddy, I got to jump in, brother. We got to wind this show down. I just want to let everybody know Teddy, Ralph, and I have some massive news for you all. It's going to happen next Thursday. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. We'll give you we'll sprinkle some info as we get to next Thursday, but we got some big news for all of you. Ralph Michaels, so incredible to have you with us. Dave Sharp, and thanks, Ski, you as well. Teddy, it's always a pleasure to do this show with you. Take us home, bro.
Sure. And for what it's worth, Ralph, I've got that printed out at my house, and I don't print out anything. So it's worth printing out today from WagerTalk.com. Hey, thank you so much, guys, for taking time out of your busy day to hang out with Prez and I and all of our guests. We appreciate it. We really do. We'll see you right back here tomorrow, 23 hours from now, 23 hours and 5 minutes on Wager Talk Today. Best of luck. Enjoy the games.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.